My stepfather handed me the paperwork on Christmas morning, right after the cinnamon rolls but before the presents. "Arlene," he said, his voice flat and businesslike, "we need you to sign this. Just a formality." His name was Victor Kane, and he'd married my mother 3 years after my father died. I looked down at the stack of documents, at least 30 pages thick, flagged with yellow sticky tabs marking signature lines. The header read, "Estate Transfer and Beneficiary Modification." My coffee went cold in my hands. My mother, Patricia, sat on the cream-colored sofa, her eyes fixed on the Christmas tree lights like they were the most fascinating thing in the world. She wouldn't look at me. My half-sister Brooke, Victor's daughter from his first marriage, smirked from the doorway, phone already in hand, probably texting her friends about the drama unfolding in real time. Victor tapped the first page with his thick finger. "It's just updating the estate paperwork after your mother's health scare last year," he said smoothly. "Making sure everything's in order. Clean. Legal." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. Not panic. Not yet. Just a quiet awareness that this moment mattered more than he wanted me to know. I didn't sign it. Not because I knew what it was. I just said I needed to read it first, and Victor's face went tight. "It's Christmas, Arlene," he said, his jaw working like he was chewing something bitter. "Family doesn't make family wait on Christmas." My mother finally looked at me then, and her eyes were pleading. Not for me. For him. For peace. For me to just do what was easy and keep the morning smooth. I'd seen that look 1,000 times in the 3 years since she'd married him. That look that said my comfort mattered less than his mood. Brooke laughed, a sharp little sound. "God, Arlene, you're so dramatic. It's just paperwork. Do you think we're trying to scam you or something?" The accusation hung in the air, designed to make me feel paranoid, selfish, suspicious. I stood up, the documents clutched in my hand. "I'll read it in my room," I said quietly. "I'll sign it if it's really just a formality." Victor's face darkened. "You'll read it now. Here. With family." That's when I understood. This wasn't about paperwork. This was about control. This was about making sure I signed something I didn't understand, in front of witnesses, under pressure, on a day when saying no felt like ruining Christmas for everyone. I walked to my childhood bedroom anyway, Victor's voice rising behind me. My mother said something soft, soothing, trying to calm him down. I closed the door and sat on the edge of my bed, the same blue quilt I'd had since I was 12 still tucked tight across the mattress. I started reading. The language was dense, legal, full of words like whereas and hereinafter that made my head swim. But I'm a paralegal. I work at a small firm downtown, mostly doing research and filing, but I'd been around enough estate documents to recognize the shape of what I was holding. This wasn't an update. This was a complete transfer. My father had left me his half of the family estate when he died. The house, the land, the small investment account. My mother had the other half. Together, we were supposed to share it equally. This document was removing me entirely. It transferred my father's share to Victor, with a note that I'd be given a one-time settlement payment of $15,000 in exchange for relinquishing all future claims. $15,000 for a property worth at least $800,000. I read it again. Then I read it a third time, my hand shaking now, not with fear but with a cold, clean anger. I took pictures of every page with my phone. Then I walked back out to the living room, the documents in my hand. Victor was standing now, his arms crossed, his face red. "Well?" he demanded. I looked at my mother. She still wouldn't meet my eyes. "This isn't an update," I said, my voice steady. "This is you trying to take my inheritance." Victor scoffed. "Don't be ridiculous. You're getting $15,000. That's more than generous for a girl your age." A girl. I was 26 years old. "The estate is worth over $800,000, I said. "My father left me half. You're offering me less than 2%. Brooke stepped forward, her phone now recording. I could see the red light. She was going to post this. She was going to make me the villain in her story. Your father's been dead for 6 years, Arlene, she said, her voice syrupy with fake sympathy. Victor's been taking care of your mom. He's been paying the bills. You think you deserve half of something you didn't even help maintain. I looked at her, this girl who'd moved into my house, slept in the guest room that used to be my art studio, and treated my mother like a convenient landlord. Yes, I said simply. I do. Victor took a step toward me. Not threatening. Just close. Crowding. Sign it, Arlene. Stop making this hard. I didn't sign it. I told them I needed to consult an attorney, which made Victor explode. He called me ungrateful, suspicious, a leech. He said I was trying to steal from my own mother. My mother cried. Not because of him. Because of me. Because I was causing a scene. Because I wasn't keeping the peace. I left that day. I drove back to my apartment, a small one-bedroom in a building that smelled like old carpet and somebody's cooking. I sat on my couch, the Christmas lights from my sad little tree blinking in the corner, and I called the one person I knew who'd understand. My father's sister, Aunt Corinne. She picked up on the second ring. Arlene, honey, Merry Christmas, she said, her voice warm and sure. Aunt Corinne, I said, and my voice cracked. I need help. I told her everything. The documents, the pressure, the $15,000, Victor's anger. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, there was a long silence. Then she said, that son of a bitch. Relief flooded through me. Someone believed me. Someone saw it. What do? I asked. You do nothing, she said. You don't sign. You don't negotiate. You call my attorney, a man named Felix Barnett. You send him those pictures. And you let him handle this. She paused. And Arlene, you need to understand something. This isn't about money. This is about Victor erasing your father completely. Felix Barnett was a small, neat man with wire-rimmed glasses and a voice that sounded like gravel smoothed by water. I met him in his office 2 days after Christmas. He'd already reviewed the photos I sent. This document, he said, tapping his desk with one finger, is not legal. I blinked. What? Your father's will specifically states that any transfer or modification of your inheritance requires your explicit written consent, witnessed by an independent third party, and filed with the probate court. This. He gestured to the printed copy I'd brought. This is a private document drafted by someone who either doesn't know estate law or doesn't care. He leaned back in his chair. The good news is, you can't be forced out. The bad news is, Victor's been managing the property taxes, the utilities, the upkeep. If he stops paying those, the estate could go into default, and that affects both you and your mother. I felt the ground shift under me. So he can force me out by just not paying bills? Felix's expression was grim. He can try. But here's what he doesn't know. He pulled a thick file from his desk drawer. Your father didn't just leave you half the estate. He left you final approval authority on any sale or transfer. That means even if your mother wanted to sell to Victor, she can't. Not without your signature. I stared at him. So I have veto power. You have absolute veto power, Felix confirmed. Victor can't touch that estate unless you agree. I didn't tell Victor. I didn't tell my mother. I just went silent. I stopped answering their calls, their texts, their emails. For 2 weeks, I was a ghost. Victor didn't like that. He started showing up at my apartment building, leaning on the buzzer, demanding I come down and talk to him like an adult. I watched him from my window, this man who'd tried to steal my father's memory, and I felt nothing. My mother sent me long, rambling texts about family and forgiveness and how I was hurting her by being so cold. She said Victor was just trying to simplify things, that I was being unreasonable. She said Brooke was recording everything, planning to expose me online as a greedy daughter who abandoned her sick mother. I didn't respond to any of it. Because Felix was busy. He was filing motions, requesting audits, demanding full financial records of how the estate had been managed since my father's death. And what he found made my blood run cold. Victor had been taking money. For 3 years, he'd been pulling from the estate investment account, small amounts at first, then larger. $50,000 total, all marked as maintenance and management fees. Fees he'd paid to himself. For managing a property he didn't own. Felix called it embezzlement. He filed a formal complaint with the probate court, requesting a full investigation and a freeze on all estate accounts until the matter was resolved. The court agreed. On a Tuesday morning in mid-January, Victor received notification that he no longer had access to any estate funds. He also received a summons to appear in court to explain the $50,000. My mother called me 17 times that day. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, her voice climbing from confused to angry to desperate. Arlene, what have you done? Victor says you're trying to destroy us. He says you filed some kind of lawsuit. Please, baby, call me back. We can fix this. But we couldn't fix it. Because I hadn't started this. Victor had. The court date was set for February 14th. Valentine's Day. I thought that was grimly appropriate. On February 10th, 4 days before the hearing, Victor tried one more time. He sent Brooke. She knocked on my door at 9 o'clock at night, her face streaked with makeup that looked like it had been applied for maximum sympathy. Arlene, please, she said when I opened the door a crack. My dad's a mess. Your mom's a mess. This is tearing the family apart. I looked at her, this girl who'd filmed me on Christmas, who'd called me dramatic and greedy to her thousands of followers. We were never family, Brooke, I said quietly. We were just people living in the same house. Her face hardened. The sympathy vanished. You're going to regret this. She turned and walked away, her heels clicking on the concrete. I closed the door, locked it, and called Felix. They're going to try something, I said. I know, he replied. Let them. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, and cold. I sat beside Felix, my hands folded in my lap, wearing the same black suit I wore to work. Professional. Calm. Unshakable. Victor sat across the aisle with his attorney, a man named Garrett Voss who looked expensive and annoyed. My mother sat behind Victor, her face pale, her hands twisting a tissue into shreds. She still wouldn't look at me. The judge, a woman named Helena Ortega, reviewed the case file with sharp, quick eyes. Mr. Kane, she said, her voice cutting through the silence. You're accused of withdrawing $50,000 from an estate account without proper authorization. How do you respond? Victor stood, his jaw tight. Your Honor, I was managing the property. Those were legitimate expenses. Judge Ortega didn't look up. Do you have receipts for these expenses? Silence. Garrett Voss cleared his throat. Your Honor, we're prepared to provide a full accounting. I didn't ask for a future promise, Mr. Voss, the judge interrupted. I asked if you have receipts now. More silence. Felix stood. Your Honor, we've subpoenaed Mr. Kane's personal bank records. The $50,000 was deposited directly into his personal account. There's no corresponding payment to contractors, repair services, or property management companies. The judge's eyes flicked to Victor. Is this accurate, Mr. Kane? Victor's face went red. I used my own money first, he said, his voice rising. I was reimbursing myself. From an account you don't own, Judge Ortega said flatly. The hearing lasted 2 hours. Felix presented bank statements, email records, and a timeline showing that Victor had been systematically draining the estate account while telling my mother he was taking care of everything. Garrett Voss argued that Victor had been acting in good faith, that the expenses were necessary, that my mother had given verbal approval. Judge Ortega asked my mother directly, Mrs. Kane, did you authorize your husband to withdraw $50,000 from your late husband's estate account? My mother hesitated. Her eyes darted to Victor. Then she said, her voice barely a whisper, I thought he was paying bills. That's not what I asked, the judge said. Did you give explicit authorization for him to withdraw that amount? My mother's face crumpled. No. The word hung in the air like a gunshot. Victor's face went from red to white. Judge Ortega leaned back in her chair. Mr. Kane, you have 30 days to return the full $50,000 to the estate account. If you fail to do so, criminal charges will be filed. Additionally, you are hereby removed as a manager of the estate. All financial decisions will now require the approval of both Mrs. Patricia Kane and Miss Arlene Whitmore. This court is adjourned. The gavel came down. Victor didn't move. He just sat there, his hands flat on the table, staring at nothing. My mother finally looked at me as we left the courtroom. Her eyes were red, her face empty. Are you happy now? She asked. I stopped walking. Felix kept going, giving us space. Am I happy that he stole from us? I asked. Am I happy that he tried to erase Dad's memory? Am I happy that you let him? She flinched. He's my husband, Arlene. And I'm your daughter. The words came out harder than I intended. Dad left me that inheritance because he wanted me to have security. He wanted me to have something that couldn't be taken away. And you stood there and watched Victor try to take it. She shook her head, tears spilling over. You don't understand. Victor's been good to me. He takes care of me. He stole $50,000, Mom. He was trying to simplify things. Her voice cracked. Desperate. He was trying to make it easier for all of us. I realized then that she would never see it. She would never understand that Victor hadn't been protecting her. He'd been isolating her, controlling her, erasing the life she'd built with my father so he could rewrite the story with himself at the center. I'm not the one who made this hard, Mom, I said quietly. Victor did. The moment he tried to steal from me. The moment he made you complicit. I walked away, and she didn't follow. Victor had 30 days to return the money. He didn't. On day 31, Felix filed a motion to hold him in contempt of court. On day 32, my mother called me. Arlene, please, she said, her voice shaking. We don't have $50,000. Victor lost his job last month. We can't pay this. They're going to press charges. I felt that cold clarity again. He should have thought of that before he stole it. Arlene, please, he's my husband. This will destroy him. It'll destroy me. I closed my eyes. What do you want me to do, Mom? Drop the case, she said immediately. Let it go. We'll figure out a payment plan. We'll pay you back over time. Mom, he was never going to pay me back. He was going to keep taking until there was nothing left. You don't know that. I did know that. Because Felix had found more. While digging through the estate records, he discovered that Victor had also been preparing to take out a line of credit against the property, using forged signatures. He'd never filed the paperwork, probably because he knew it wouldn't pass scrutiny, but the intent was clear. He was planning to leverage my father's estate for his own debt. I can't drop the case, Mom, I said. But I can offer you a choice. The choice was simple. My mother could stay in the house, but Victor had to leave. She would retain her 50% ownership, and I would retain mine. Victor would have no claim, no access, no control. All financial decisions would go through Felix, and my mother would receive a monthly allowance from the estate income to cover her living expenses. In exchange, I wouldn't press criminal charges for the $50,000. Felix would write it off as a civil judgment, and Victor would sign a promissory note agreeing to repay it over 10 years. If he missed a single payment, the criminal case would be reopened. My mother was silent for a long time. Then she said, "You want me to choose between you and him?" "No, Mom," I said. "I want you to choose between stability and a man who's been stealing from you." She hung up. 2 days later, she called back. Okay. That was all she said. Just, okay. Victor moved out on March 1st. He took his clothes, his computer, and Brooke. My mother stayed. The house felt different after that. Quieter. Older. I visited her once a week, and we sat in the kitchen drinking coffee, not really talking about anything important. She never apologized. But she never defended him again, either. And slowly, I started to see my mother again. Not the woman who'd married Victor. The woman who'd loved my father. The estate had been tied up in legal knots for so long that I'd almost forgotten what it actually was. A house. A real physical place where I'd grown up, where my father had planted rose bushes, where my mother had hung curtains she'd sewn herself. In April, Felix called me into his office. The estate's clear, he said. All debts paid, all taxes current, all legal challenges resolved. You and your mother now have full, uncontested ownership. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were updated deed documents, showing Patricia Kane and Arlene Whitmore as equal co-owners. My father's name was still there, too, in the history. A quiet reminder that he'd built this. There's one more thing, Felix said. He pulled out another document. Your father set up a trust clause that activates when you turn 27. You're 26 now, right? I nodded. What kind of clause? A protection clause. If at any point your mother remarries or becomes financially dependent on another spouse, your share automatically increases to 75%, and all major decisions require your sole approval. It's designed to prevent exactly what Victor tried to do. I stared at the paper. My father had known. Even from beyond the grave, he'd known someone might try to take what he'd left me. He'd built a failsafe. Your father, Felix said quietly, loved you very much. I turned 27 on June 9th. My mother threw a small party, just the two of us, in the house where I grew up. She baked a lemon cake, my favorite, and we sat on the back porch watching the sun set over the yard my father had mowed every Saturday. I'm sorry, she said suddenly. I looked at her. She was staring at her hands, her wedding ring, the one from my father, back on her finger. She'd taken off Victor's ring in March and never put it back on. I should have protected you, she continued. I should have seen what he was doing. I was so tired of being alone. I know, Mom. Your father would have been ashamed of me. No, I said. He would have understood. He loved you. She started crying then, not the desperate manipulative tears I'd seen on Christmas, but real quiet grief. I miss him, she whispered. Every day I miss him. Me too. We sat there as the light faded, two women holding on to the memory of a man who'd loved us enough to protect us even after he was gone. Later that night, I walked through the house, room by room, remembering. The living room where we'd opened presents. The kitchen where Dad had taught me to make scrambled eggs. The hallway where my height markers were still penciled on the doorframe. This house was mine. Not because I'd fought for it, but because my father had made sure it would be. And no one, not Victor, not anyone, could take that away. Victor tried once more in July. He sent a letter through Garrett Voss, his attorney, requesting a good faith negotiation to settle the $50,000 debt for $10,000 in cash. Felix replied with a single sentence. The promissory note stands. First payment due August 1st. Victor didn't make the payment. Felix filed the contempt motion. In September, Victor was arrested for embezzlement. The criminal trial happened in November. I didn't attend. I didn't need to. Felix represented the estate, and the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records, forged signatures, emails where Victor discussed accessing Patricia's accounts with Brooke. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Victor was convicted on 3 counts of embezzlement and 1 count of fraud. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to repay the full $50,000 plus interest. My mother didn't go to the sentencing. She stayed home, in the house, in the kitchen where my father used to make her coffee every morning. When I visited her that evening, she was washing dishes, her movements slow and methodical. "Did you hear?" I asked. She nodded. "Brooke called me. She said it was my fault." "It's not." "I know." She put down the dish towel and turned to face me. "I'm glad you didn't sign that paper, Arlene. On Christmas. I'm glad you fought." It was the closest she'd ever come to saying thank you. The house needed work. Years of Victor's management had left things neglected. The roof leaked, the furnace rattled, the front porch had boards that sagged when you stepped on them. In December, exactly 1 year after that Christmas morning, I hired contractors. I used money from the estate investment account, the same account Victor had drained, to make repairs. My mother and I picked out new paint colors together. She wanted soft blue for the living room, the same color it had been when my father was alive. I helped her roll the first coat, and we worked in comfortable silence, the radio playing old songs she used to dance to. By January, the house looked like itself again. Clean. Maintained. Loved. My mother started gardening, something she hadn't done since my father died. She planted tulips in the front bed, the kind that come back every year. I bought her new gardening gloves for her birthday. One Saturday afternoon, she asked me to help her go through some boxes in the attic. We found my father's things, his old flannel shirts, his toolbox, his collection of terrible mystery novels. "Do you want any of this?" she asked. I pulled out his favorite shirt, the green one he'd worn every weekend. It still smelled faintly like his cologne. "Yeah," I said. "I want to keep some of it." We didn't throw anything away. We just organized it, put it in clear plastic bins, labeled them, made sure it would be safe. In February, Felix called with news. The estate investment account had recovered. With Victor's embezzlement repaid through court-ordered restitution and the account properly managed, the balance was now over $900,000. "Your father was a smart man," Felix said. "He set this up to grow. If you and your mother don't touch it, it'll be worth over $1 million in 5 years." I told my mother. She smiled a real smile and said, "Your father always had a plan." We decided to keep living simply. My mother stayed in the house. I kept my apartment. We didn't need to spend the money to prove we had it. We just needed to know it was there, safe, protected. In March, Brooke posted a video. It was titled, "How My Dad's Gold-Digging Stepdaughter Destroyed Our Family." She told a story about a manipulative, greedy young woman who'd used legal tricks to steal from her sick stepmother and send her innocent father to prison. The comments were vicious. People called me names, said I deserved to suffer, said karma would come for me. I watched the video once, sitting in my apartment with a cup of tea. Then I called Felix. "Can we sue her for defamation?" I asked. "We can," he said. "Do you want to?" I thought about it. About the energy it would take, the attention it would bring, the way it would drag everything back into the light. "No," I said. "Let her have her story. I have mine." The truth came out anyway. Someone in the courthouse, a clerk, a court reporter, I never found out who, leaked the trial documents. Within a week, the full case was online. The bank records, the forged signatures, the emails, everything. Brooke's comment section turned. People who'd called me a gold digger started asking questions. Why had Victor been taking money from an account that wasn't his? Why had he tried to force Arlene to sign away her inheritance? Why had Brooke filmed the confrontation on Christmas instead of defending her stepsister? Brooke deleted the video. Then she deleted her entire account. I felt nothing. No vindication, no satisfaction. Just the quiet relief of knowing the truth had a way of surviving lies. In April, my mother asked me if I wanted to move back into the house. "There's plenty of room," she said. "You could save money. We could be a family again." I thought about it. About the blue bedroom, the quiet mornings, the front porch where we'd sit and drink coffee. But I also thought about my apartment, small and cramped and mine. A place I'd built without anyone's permission. I like visiting, Mom, I said. But I think I need my own space right now. She nodded, understanding. Your father would be proud of you, she said. For standing up. For not letting Victor erase him. I didn't do it for Dad, I said. I did it for me. That was the truth. I'd fought because I deserved to. Because my father's love had been real, and it had meant something, and I wasn't going to let anyone rewrite that story. In May, I got a letter. It was from Victor, written from prison. I almost threw it away, but something made me open it. The handwriting was shaky, cramped. Arlene, it said, I know you won't believe me, but I never meant to hurt you. I thought I was helping. I thought I was making things simpler. I was wrong. I was selfish. I stole from you and your mother, and I tried to justify it because I was scared. Scared of being poor again, scared of not being enough. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that your father was a good man, and you were right to protect what he left you. Victor. I read it twice. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. Not because I forgave him, but because I wanted to remember that even people who hurt us are still just people. Scared, selfish, broken people. 2 weeks later, my mother asked if I'd read the letter. He sent me one too, she said. Are you going to respond? I asked. She shook her head. No, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm just sad. Sad that he couldn't be better. Yeah, I said. Me too. We didn't talk about Victor after that. He became a memory, a cautionary tale, a chapter that was closed. In June, on my 28th birthday, my mother gave me a gift. It was a small wooden box, hand-carved, with my initials on the lid. Inside was a stack of letters. Your father wrote these, she said, her voice thick. One for every birthday until you turned 30. He made me promise to give them to you after he was gone, but I forgot. I found them last week in the back of his closet. I opened the first one, the one meant for my 21st birthday. Dear Arlene, it said in my father's familiar scrawl. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I hate that. I wanted to see you grow up, see you graduate, see you become the strong, smart woman I know you'll be. But life doesn't always give us what we want. So here's what I want you to know. You are enough. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to earn love by being useful. You exist, and that's enough. I'm proud of you just for being you. Love always, Dad. I cried reading it. Not sad tears. Grateful tears. Because even though he was gone, he was still protecting me. Still reminding me that I mattered. I read all the letters that night, one after another, and by the end, I understood something I hadn't before. My father hadn't just left me money. He'd left me permission to value myself. The estate settled into a rhythm. My mother managed the house, I managed the finances with Felix's help, and we both showed up for Sunday dinners. Sometimes Aunt Corinne joined us, and we'd sit on the porch talking about nothing important, just being together. In August, my mother started dating someone. His name was George, and he was a retired teacher who volunteered at the library. He was kind, soft-spoken, and completely uninterested in my mother's money. The first time he came to dinner, I watched him carefully, looking for signs. Red flags. But all I saw was a man who made my mother laugh, who listened when she talked, who didn't try to fix her or control her. After dinner, my mother walked me to my car. Do you like him? She asked nervously. I do, I said. But Mom, if you marry him. I know, she interrupted. The trust clause. Your share goes to 75%. Felix already explained it. She smiled. And that's okay. I don't need to own the whole house to feel at home. I just need to feel safe. Are you safe with him? I asked. Yes, she said without hesitation. I am. That was all I needed to hear. George proposed in October. My mother said yes. They got married in a small ceremony at the courthouse. Just family. I stood beside my mother and held her bouquet, and when the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," I saw my mother smile in a way she hadn't since my father died. Real. Unguarded. Free. The trust clause activated automatically. My ownership increased to 75%, and all major financial decisions now required my sole approval. George signed a prenuptial agreement stating he had no claim to the estate. Felix drew it up, and George signed without argument. "I'm marrying Patricia, not her house," he said simply. My mother moved some of her personal belongings to George's small apartment, but she kept the house. We agreed she'd live there as long as she wanted, rent-free, and when she was gone, the house would be mine completely. In November, I visited her while George was at a volunteer meeting. She was baking cookies, the kitchen warm and smelling like sugar and vanilla. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked. "Marrying Victor?" She didn't answer right away. She pulled a tray from the oven, set it on the counter, and wiped her hands on a towel. "I regret not protecting you," she said. "I regret letting him make me forget who I was. But I don't regret the lesson." "What lesson?" "That love isn't supposed to make you smaller." She smiled. "Your father knew that. George knows that. Victor didn't." She handed me a warm cookie. "And you know it now too." She was right. I did know it. I'd learned it the hard way, standing in that living room on Christmas morning, refusing to sign my life away. In December, 1 year after George and my mother married, I received a letter from the prison. Victor had been released early for good behavior. He wasn't allowed to contact my mother or me directly, per the restraining order, but he'd sent a letter through his parole officer. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," it said. "I just want you to know I'm working. I'm paying back the restitution. It'll take me the rest of my life, but I'll do it. And I'm sorry. For all of it." I showed the letter to my mother. She read it, nodded, and handed it back. "Do you believe him?" I asked. "Does it matter?" She replied. "He can't hurt us anymore." She was right. The estate was protected. The house was ours. My father's legacy was intact. Victor's apology, real or not, didn't change any of that. In January, Felix called to tell me the estate investment account had crossed $1 million. "Your father would be very proud," he said. I thought about my father's letters, his careful planning, his love that had outlasted death. "Yeah," I said. "He would be." That night, I drove to the house. My mother and George were in the living room, playing cards and laughing. I sat on the porch, wrapped in my father's old flannel shirt, and looked out at the yard. The tulips my mother planted were beginning to push through the soil, tiny green shoots promising spring. I thought about that Christmas morning, about the papers Victor had tried to force me to sign, about how close I'd come to losing everything. But I hadn't lost. I'd fought. Not with anger or revenge, but with patience, with clarity, with the quiet strength my father had built into me. And I'd won. Not just the money, not just the house, but something more important. I'd won my right to exist on my own terms. On February 14th, 2 years after the first court hearing, I met Felix for coffee. He handed me the final documents. "It's done," he said. "Victor's restitution payments are set up. The estate's fully clear. Your mother's protected. You're protected."